workers
who went on strike last month to protest Apple's production demands.
For the new iPhone 5.
A bad apple
Boots every bunch.
Apple CEO
Tim Cook
says he cares about every worker,
but talk is cheap.
What matters
Is not what Apple says.
What matters
What Apple does.
You guys gotta leave, man, with that.
The factory is infused with aluminum dust.
You guys gotta leave.
Nothing to address the danger. 2 weeks later, factory in China. 2 weeks later,
Factory exploded,
killing 4 workers
and injuring 20. In the wake of the explosion, Apple said they took measures to control the dust. But last year, another explosion had a second factory. Injured 60 workers. If Apple were genuinely committed to improving its labor practices, it would open its factories to independent inspection and worker training to independent auditing. If Apple genuinely cared about each worker, they would pay every worker a living wage. Enough for workers to achieve a decent standard of living and to support their families. Barely 1% of the retail price of an iPad goes to the workers who make it. 33% goes to Apple's profit.
It's not interrupting the customers, please.
Profits so high
And its labor costs so low that Apple can triple wages of 700,000 Chinese workers.
700,000 Chinese workers
And still make 40 billion a year.
40 billion a year.
To the next time you're in an Apple store.
Apple store
Like today.
today.
Go up to the Genius Bar.
Up to Genius Bar.
Ask a
Couple of geniuses.
why the most
Profitable company
in the history of tech.
in the history of tech.
In the history of Silicon Valley.
In the history of Silicon Valley.
Can't pay its workers a living wage.
Can't pay its workers a living wage.
A bad apple.
An apple
Spoils every bunch.
every bunch.
A bad apple.
A bad apple
Spoils every bunch.
spoils every bunch.
A bad apple.
Apple
Spoils every bunch.
spoils every bunch.
Are you
A
secure?
bad apple. Spoils every bunch.
A bad apple spoils every bunch. A bad apple spoils every bunch. A bad apple spoils every bunch.
A bad apple.
Spoils every bunch.
A bad apple. Spoils every bunch.
bad apple spoils every bunch.
A bad apple spoils every bunch.
A bad apple
Spoils every bunch.
A bad apple
Spoils every bunch.
Bad apple
Spoils every bunch.
A bad apple
Spoils every bunch. Every bunch. Bad apple spoils every bunch. Bad apple spoils every bunch. Spoils every bunch. Bad apple spoils every bunch. Bad apple spoils every bunch.
A bad apple spoils every bunch.
Bad apple spoils every bunch. Bad apple spoils every bunch. Bad apple spoils every bunch. Spoils every bunch. Bad apple spoils every bunch. 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 Spoils every bunch.
Hey, it's a different slide.